Welcome to For the Record. I'm Lily Coleman. Today, an inside look at an extensive project underway at ALCOSAN, a miles-long underground tunnel that they say will help them serve their customers and help in their efforts to keep water clean. Let's start by bringing in Kim Kennedy, ALCOSAN's Director of Engineering and Construction. Let's talk a little bit about this Ohio River Tunnel project. How did this come to be? I mean, this has obviously been in the works for quite some time.
This has been in the works for quite some time. ALCOSAN received their first draft consent decree in 2008. So it has been in the works for quite some time. And the Ohio River Tunnel is just one component of the compliance piece of that consent decree and what we call the Clean Water Plan. There will ultimately be 3 tunnels, the Ohio, the Allegheny, and the Monongahela, but the Ohio tunnel is going first.
Okay, let's talk a little about that. Let's dive deeper into that, I guess pun intended, if you will. How does the construction take place with all of that?
So it's an 18-foot diameter tunnel that'll be 150 feet below grade, about 60 feet in solid bedrock. So what it will take place by using a tunnel boring machine. And then we have 8 pickup points along the 5-mile stretch that will require a drop shaft all the way down to the 150 feet depth, and then that will intersect with the tunnel boring machine so that we're able to pick up 8 places along the rivers that currently discharge to the water bodies during wet weather.
That's crazy. I mean, when you stop and think about it. So I guess help me paint the picture. Humans, robots, like what does that look like?
Oh, it's humans, right? Humans. So the tunnel boring machine obviously is a pretty advanced piece of machinery that will be built specifically for the specifications outlined in our contract documents. But there is a whole industry of folks who build tunnels for subways, for mining, and then for combined sewer overflow projects, for flood projects. So there's an entire tunneling industry with really talented labor that does this all over the world. So this is our first one in Pittsburgh. Well, we had the North Shore Connector, but this is much deeper, obviously.
So that would explain to me, I guess, that checks out then with the timeline of all of this, because we're talking, what, 6 years plus?
Yeah, it's correct. So it is a 6-year plus project, and that is because the tunnel boring machine only advances so many feet per day. It's drilling probably a 22-foot diameter hole, and all of those, the rocks and the shavings have to be pumped back to the access shaft. So we anticipate about 45 feet per day, and it's about 5 miles. So the machine will drill 6 days a week, and then there's always a day for maintenance and preparing it for the following week. So it's a very labor-intensive, careful project, and we have to keep everybody safe, right? So it's working at those depths. There's a lot that goes into it.
Talk about some of those challenges.
Right. So ventilation, keeping the equipment operating. As the tunnel boring machine advances, then it'll be lined, so bringing the concrete lining plates down at that depth, and as it advances, continuing to monitor gas. We have a very interesting geological profile here in Pittsburgh with a lot of history, so we've done a lot of advanced borings to learn as much as we can about it, but there will be very high-end monitoring at all times to make sure that everybody is safe down there.
So what does that monitoring look like? Is there like a central command center? Is it something that you guys are monitoring from offices somewhere? What does that look like?
So it'll be right there at the site at each of the, so remember we have 8 deep shafts, but the access shaft for a tunnel boring machine, those folks will be right there.
Wow.
And we have obviously we have a full team of construction management folks that will oversee the contractor, and then we'll have ALCOSAN representatives there as well all the time.
Okay, so I know it might be strange to ask when you're talking about like a 6-year project, but what comes after all of that work is complete? When we finally hit that 6-year mark, we've made our way through, what comes next?
Right, so this is there's two things on either side of it, so that the downstream end will connect to a wet weather pump station, which I think Jeff will talk about, that's being built right now at the plant. And then on the upstream side, the Allegheny River Tunnel will start in the same shaft where we drilled downriver for the Ohio River Tunnel. We'll drill upriver 6 miles for the Allegheny River Tunnel. So there will be connections on either side of it, but once the Ohio River Tunnel connects to the wet weather pump station, then we'll be able to capture and convey flows that currently go to the rivers during wet weather events and get that to the plant for treatment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about the team that you guys will have in place working on this project. Has to be pretty extensive with all of the extensive work that you guys will be doing.
You know, and that's the beauty of Pittsburgh. There's a lot of talent here. There's a lot of hardworking people, and we're very fortunate to have one of the best teams that I've ever been a part of to deliver this project. So we've got like I said, we had a funnel designer. We have a tunnel program manager kind of overseeing and making sure that each one of the tunnel contract documents have consistency, and we have, we're holding it to a pretty high standard. And then we have the construction management team along with the ALCOSAN team.
What else do you want to touch on specifically?
Well, I think that I wanted to just touch on the importance of the Clean Water Plan and encourage people to follow along. This is a generational project for our region. ALCOSAN is celebrating its 80th anniversary this year. So back in 1946, they came up with this regional solution for wastewater treatment. Prior to that, everything was just discharging to our rivers and streams. And the plant didn't come online until 1959. Wow. So imagine, that's not that old, right? And so I guess the environmental benefits and the public health benefits of our agency, it's such a great opportunity to become interested in it and what we do and the way that we're able to treat the flow or the wastewater at the plant 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all the time, for the public health of this region. And I know that it's not something that people think about every day, after you shower, after you do laundry, after you cook. But that water has to go somewhere, and it has to be cleaned before it's reintroduced to the streams. And pretty proud of the work that we do, and we're excited to continue to build with the compliance piece of the Clean Water Plan and continuing to serve that mission for years to come.
Still ahead on For the Record, how you can get a firsthand view of some of the work ALCOSAN has been doing with these major projects. Welcome back to For the Record. As we examine some of the projects ALCOSAN is working on, I want to turn next to my sit down with Jeff Argyros, the Utilities Manager of Capital Projects. Take a look. These are really interesting projects. What's your role in helping all of this come together?
Sure. So Kim had talked about the Clean Water Plan, which is made up of 4 major components, one of which is the plant expansion program. That's my realm that I deal in. As Kim had mentioned, the Clean Water Plan, it's decades of planning, but ultimately the construction associated with the plant expansion program that I'm involved with really started to take shape in 2019, 2020. And so we're about 6 years into construction. It's about a decade plus worth of construction. So we're just over the halfway point, and we've made a lot of strides over the last 5 and 6 years, and we still have more to come, and I'm happy to talk about that.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that. What is more to come?
Sure. So more to come. I think to speak to more to come, we do need to look back and where the plant expansion program began. So prior to this plant expansion program, ALCOSAN's peak treatment capacity on a rainy day when rain would enter the system and be handled at the plant, it would max out at 250 million gallons per day. So that is the number that we are really trying to improve through this plant expansion program. And we have a few steps that we take throughout this program. The first step we took last year, and that was a huge milestone and something that ALCOSAN is very proud of. We jumped that number from 250 million gallons per day to 295 million gallons per day last September. That was a significant increase. It may not seem like much with 45 million gallons per day increase, but that's going to handle your run-of-the-mill storm event that happens to overflow into the rivers. And with that, we do estimate that reduce the overflows into the rivers by about 1.5 billion gallons per year, just as a result of that jump to 295 million gallons per day. So with that, that's where we're at today, but we do have more to come, as I mentioned. And later this year, we're actually going to be jumping that number all the way up to 480 million gallons per day, which is almost double what we started at with 250 million gallons per day. So we're still on track for that next increase coming later this year as a couple of our ongoing plant expansion projects reach conclusion. And then our final step to kind of close out the decade of construction towards the 2030 timeframe, it will align with that tunnel program that Kim was just talking about. That wet weather pump station project that she was talking about, where the Ohio River Tunnel will convey the flows to the plant, that is also on a very similar timeline to the first segment of the regional tunnel system.
So talking about these updates, obviously these need to be made, right? Is this something that we're dealing with community input as well, or is this just something that really, there's no questions asked, it has to be done?
So it's both.
Both.
Obviously, when we worked through the consent decree negotiations, there absolutely is a community input component associated with all the pillars. But at the same time, we do need to increase our plant's capacity, absolutely, no matter what. That is one way to significantly reduce those overflows that are going into the rivers. And expanding your plant is a very obvious way to do that. Once you hit 250 million gallons per day back in 2020, that's when an overflow would begin. But now we're pushing that number up higher. And so it's giving us more capacity at the plant to really help alleviate those overflows.
So beneficial in the long run.
Beneficial now
Yeah.
with that first increase and continuing to benefit.
How is a project like this paid for?
It's paid for by our ratepayers. We do make efforts to access grants and other opportunities for funding when available, but most of it is funded through ratepayers. And we have had years of planning and preparation for this, so the ratepayers aren't hit with a large increase in 1 year. And that's a big credit to our finance division that takes a lot of planning and heads up in planning for that.
What else do you want people to know about the work you guys are doing?
So I think it's important for the plant expansion really to highlight our ALCOSAN open house in September. This is an annual event, award-winning event that we host every year because the public doesn't always get the opportunity to come to our plant. It is a fenced-in facility. However, once a year we do open the gate. Everyone is welcome. We set up tents. It's just like any type of fair. It's exciting. Bring your kids out. I've got 2 daughters, and they have a great time playing in the educational zone. But we've also got a clean water zone to talk about all of these different pillars, to educate the adults. Anybody that might have questions about their rates or anything about what might be going on. But as far as just the tour, I mean, that is like a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And right now, if you're coming to our annual open house, every year you're getting to see something new because we're doing this plant expansion program. And this year, we have a very large wet weather pump station project that we just awarded in January of this year. We're starting to see the dirt move around. It's exciting for the public to get to see that because it's not something that they always get to access at our plant. And we're always excited to have the public come out and take a look.
Still ahead.
Pittsburgh has always tackled big issues as a group, right? So this region really works together.
More on how ALCOSAN's Clean Water Plan is meant to make a big difference for Pittsburghers. Welcome back to For the Record. As we continue our look at ALCOSAN's Ohio River Tunnel Project and Clean Water Plan, I now sit down with Julia Spiker, Utility Manager of Regionalization. Okay, so starting big picture here. Tell me a little bit about the Clean Water Plan. Let's start there.
Sure. So the Clean Water Plan is the region's approach to managing the combined sewer overflows and the sanitary sewer overflows that come into our streams and waterways. We're doing that through 4 pillars. One is the plant expansion, which is going to upsize our treatment capacity here, and then we're building series of 3 tunnels to convey more flow that currently overflows into the streams to the plant for treatment. And then we focus on the infrastructure that's already in place. And that is through 2 pillars. One is GROW, which is a grant funding program we have for our customer municipalities to build green infrastructure and other projects that help eliminate some of the excess flow coming into the system. And then regionalization, which is about taking the current system that's highly fragmented and has been in service for almost 100 years at this point, and streamlining it so that we can come up with more cost-efficient and holistic projects to address some of the problems that have been with this region in the sewer industry for quite some time.
So Kim and Jeff both kind of touched on this, but why is that so important, that just streamlining the process? Why is that needed, especially right now?
It really boils down to 2 things, and that's people and water quality. So we need to make sure that this region can continue to experience economic growth, and making sure that we're keeping sanitary sewage out of the rivers is an essential part of that problem. And then the other, of course, is water quality. We have these rich, beautiful rivers and streams in this region. They help define us, and people deserve to have access to safe and clean waterways that they can enjoy and fish on and continue to have as part of kind of our regional identity.
How does that work with the local municipalities where some of that water is? What does that teamwork or collaboration look like? I mean, I would assume there is some involved.
It's essential. For the regionalization program, having close partnerships with our 83 customer municipalities is essential. So those 83 customer municipalities all own their own sewer system. The downstream municipalities are receiving the flow from the upstream. The upstream municipalities wanted to experience growth, but they have to pass that flow through their neighbor. There's just limitations. As hard as these municipalities work, there's limitations in how much they can control what's going through the shared pipes. So the regionalization program really looked at those sewers that transverse across municipal boundaries, and will move the ownership, the operation and maintenance requirements, and then future improvements that are needed to those sewers to ALCOSAN. So now one authority can really take a step back and look at how we can best operate and maintain and improve those sewers to address the needs across all the municipalities they serve.
Talk about the coordination that has to go into that, because that has to be extensive.
It is. And it's essential not just to understand each municipality by really listening to them first about their needs, but I'm reminded that these sewers are part of their identity. So to have someone else coming in and operating them that will be close in their residents' backyard takes a lot of trust building, a lot of listening, and then demonstration of the ALCOSAN commitment to providing that high level of service that the municipalities have already established. So we have a lot of meetings with our municipalities. We work closely with their Department of Public Works operators as our operators come in and transfer that really rich institutional knowledge. So we want them to feel that this is not a transaction when we transfer the sewer ownership, but that it's really a close partnership that is continuing to develop.
With this plan, with the Clean Water Plan, talking specifically about the Northside plant, if we could for a second, obviously that's expanding. Just tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. The planned expansion is really the centerpiece of the Clean Water Plan. It's where we started. We will, of course, all 4 components work together, but we need to make sure that we have the capacity to treat that additional flow that the other 3 pillars are either helping convey to that expanded plant, or that are helping keep flow that doesn't need to enter the sewers from being able to come in there. So it's been a long planned. Lots of engineering, lots of planning work went into what that could look like. We're very site restricted at the North Shore treatment plant. We have a railroad on one side and then of course the Ohio on the other. So that team really did some extensive high quality engineering work to be able to make sure we remain in compliance and that we can provide the treatment capacity that this region requires.
You know, I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts too, switching now to more of the tunnel system. Why is the tunnel the first step? Can you explain that?
Sure. So we currently discharge 9 billion gallons of overflow in a typical year. Or the combination of the treatment plant expansion and then the construction of these tunnels will reduce that by 7 billion gallons.
Wow.
huge. And that's all going to be realized in incremental steps as you expand that treatment plant. And now you can convey more flow to it. Instead of that volume of water going to the rivers, it's picked up by these tunnels and conveyed to the plant safely for treatment there. So they really work hand in glove to reach the water quality requirements that we're seeking.
Keep it here on For the Record, because coming up, I've got this week's final word. Welcome back. As we wrap up this week's episode of For the Record, I want to bring ALCOSAN's Julia Spiker back in for this week's final word. It's all about how Pittsburgh is coming together in its own way as a part of the utility's decades-long project. What are you most impressed with in all of this?
In my role and my experience in the regional conveyance division, I am most impressed and I get excited most about that engagement with the municipalities. Pittsburgh has always tackled big issues as a group, right? So this region really works together, and we're not afraid of these large infrastructure needs or these large problems we're facing. So being able to work with all 83 of them and represent their needs and kind of come to consensus about the best way forward, the most cost-efficient way forward, is what I find most rewarding.
What else do you want people to know?
I want people to know that this is their plan. As Kim mentioned, this is a generational plan, but this is not something that was done in a vacuum. We really sought a lot of engagement and continue to do that. And that ALCOSAN is committed to providing the level of service that we have been for the past 80 years, and it's all we're focused on.
And that's all for this week's edition of For the Record. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next Sunday morning at 11 a.m.